Well, hello and welcome to this video demonstrating how to change the SSD on a MacBook Air. It is important to remember some of the newer models have like soldered in SSDs and therefore this won't work, so just be careful with whatever you do as you may invalidate any warranty if you tamper with the device. Before you go any further, it's really important that you've backed up your MacBook to prevent any loss of data. Now for this, you really only need a few things. To make sure that this is a success. So you need a little holder for the screws that will come out to keep them safe. They're tiny, and you'll need two screwdrivers, which are pentalobe screwdrivers, which you can get online. They're a T5 and a P5. Later on, I'm going to use a normal cross-headed screw because the old screw holding in the SSD has worn out, so I replaced it with a normal screw. Now you'll also need a soft surface to do the work so as not to damage your laptop, and Apple use proprietary connectors on their SSDs. Now you can get proprietary connectors. I'm showing you the one here that actually came in the MacBook, and you can see that the end has got its own proprietary connector, the gold bits at the end. Now I replaced this with an M2 connection SSD, which isn't a proprietary Apple connection, and it's easy enough to get an adapter online. So I'll drop a picture into the video to show you what one I have, which is a WD Black NVMe SSD. So that's what I used, and you can easily get an adapter online. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is flip your MacBook Air over, and using your pentalobe screwdriver, remove the 10 screws on the back. You'll see that the two by the hinge are longer than the other 8, so just make sure you remember where they come out from and that you keep them safe. Now, just while I'm taking the screws out, the model here is a 2015 MacBook Air 11-inch model. It only shipped with 128 gigabyte of storage, and I actually bought this device second hand, and I'm in the process of doing a video to sort of give people advice as to whether in 2020 you should consider buying a used MacBook Air, which is what I did a couple of years ago. And I just upgraded the hard drive, and it's done me really well. I've only upgraded it because I needed some better hardware. But otherwise, this is a really good laptop, and it's served me well, and it may well do you. So rather than going out and buying a brand new MacBook Air, maybe just keep an eye out for that video, hit subscribe, and you'll be notified when that video releases. And it might just be useful for you to consider an older version, which you can easily upgrade like this. As I say, some of the newer ones, it's not quite as easy to do this. As I say, just take your time taking these screws out. Make sure not to lose them. They are really, really small, and just be careful not to wear the head out. I say when I got this laptop second hand and I opened it up, the screw holding the SSD in was completely worn, so it was a real difficulty. Now once you've got the screws out, carefully put your fingernails under the hinge and lift it off, and make sure you keep that safe. Now I'll just grab the camera and show you the inside of this. Now here's the SSD that's my new one, but you'll pull the old one out and place it. There's the adapter, and this other thing you need to be aware of is the battery connector. Now before you go any further, you need to make sure that you remove the sort of detached battery, which just be careful just to make sure you don't damage it, but you just basically need to get your fingernails on either side of it and pull it up. So sometimes a bit stiff, so just be really careful. And then once you've done that, you can see it's flipped up and you're ready to remove the SSD. Now, as I said earlier, you'll need to use the pentalobe screwdriver, but I'm using a standard one because the original screw wore out. And there's only one screw holding it in, which is here. Just undo it very gently, don't damage the screw, and if you do, you just need to replace it with another screw. And once you've got that screw out, you can get the SSD out. Let's just gently lift the SSD up ever so slightly, and then take hold of either side and wiggle it out. Just be really gentle with it, you don't want to damage any of the connections. Now, so you won't need to do this, but if you're putting a new SSD in, and it depends on what connector you get, but if you do have one with a connector. You'll see I'll take that out in a minute. But as you can see the comparison here, look, that's the M2 connection, that's the Apple original sort of proprietary one. And I say I've managed to work it with just a normal standard one, which is far cheaper, with an adapter, which I'm just going to take out. Now, if you are replacing it with a non-standard one, you'll need to put the adapter on the end of the SSD and pop it in. Now, I haven't run any sort of speed tests on this SSD that I put in, but it was far quicker opening up than the one that it shipped with, just because it was newer, I think. So this is definitely a worthwhile thing to do if you've run out of storage. Now, so you just, when you put the new one in, you just gently pop it on and ever so gently push it in. And just make sure it's in the right way, and just ever so gently. See, I couldn't remember which way it went in, so you just need to just be careful with it, and it will go in, but you just don't damage it. Okay, and once your SSD's in, just reconnect the screw. And I say, don't need to over tighten it, you don't want to damage the inside of it, just needs to hold it in place. Okay, and then once that's done, you can just push down on the battery connector to reconnect the battery. That's all you need to do to reconnect the battery. And once you're done, just slip the back cover back on, and you just need to then put the screws back in, which as again, remember that two of them, the two by the hinge, are the longer ones, so make sure they go back in there, and then just pop the screws back in. And as I say, you don't need to over tighten it, you just need to hold the back on, and that's it. You've then replaced the SSD. It's as simple as that. One thing, sort of just while I'm putting these back in, you're likely to need to format that new SSD into a Apple or a Mac OS recognised format. Unfortunately, I can't show you how to do this because I don't want to lose all the data on my SSD. But it's providing you've made sure you've back up beforehand. Before you do this, it's so important you back up beforehand, because it will make your sort of rebooting it and restarting your MacBook so much easier, because you'll just be able to reinstall it from that backup. So that's really important. But when you've sort of turned this back on again for the first time after putting your new SSD in, you may have to start it into recovery mode. It might depend upon what SSD you put in. When I had it, I had a bit of a problem that it wouldn't recognise the SSD that I put in. If you look online, there are so many guides as to how to fix that and what your laptop's doing. I ended up having to boot it into recovery mode, which is Command and R, which you hold down just as soon as you turn it on. But there are guides online as to how to do that, so look there, and that's how you will reinstall Mac OS through that recovery mode. And it was really simple once I'd figured out the slight problem, and then I just reinstalled it from my Time Machine backup, and it was as if I hadn't changed the SSD. Everything was where it was beforehand, just I had far bigger amounts of storage and far more sort of speed when opening documents. So once you've done this, you can probably breathe a bit of extra life into your old MacBook. And actually, if you don't want to spend out £1,000 or $1,000 on a brand new MacBook Air, you could look online for a second-hand one, and providing you get it from somewhere reputable, and if you're happy to do that, then this is a way that you can make it a bit more fit for 2020, because you will have increased the memory, the hard drive or the SSD on it, and the storage on it. And I say when they shipped, it only had 128 or 256 gigabytes, and the one that I had was 128, and I very quickly ran out of storage with photos, which is why I needed to do this. And as I say, that's it. You just finished putting the last few screws in. They're fiddly, and then it's done. Now, so this is a brand new channel I'm doing, sort of just hoping to do some tech videos, just show people how to do some things. I'm not going to do a load of like speed tests that you'll see on other ones, because that's not what I'm trying to do here. I just want to try and help people who might want to just get a bit more use out of their device, and yeah, if you found this useful, let us know in the comments section. Do hit subscribe and like the video, and yeah, if people like what I'm doing, I'll continue doing it, and hopefully this video has been of use to you. You've replaced the SSD in your MacBook Air. Make sure you keep the other one safe, because if you ever do sell it, you'll probably want to put in the one with smaller storage back in, or you can even get an adapter and use that as an external hard drive, if that helps. So as I say, if you like what I've done, this is really new, hit subscribe, hit like, and we'll continue to get some more videos out for you.